Good afternoon and good evening to all. Myself Vaibhav. I welcome all of you to today's session of Visual JForex, in which we will be continuing to work with the indicator named Heikin Ashi lines. This is going to be third and the final part in this series, and in today's setup we will be looking to define the conditions for the execution of the sale trade. So let us head to the Visual JForex board, which has been developed by the Dukascopy Bank SA. The development so far includes this default instrument subscription, where the Euro USD is being considered as a default instrument. The position amount was defined at 0. After that, these Heikin Ashi lines blocks, first 2 are of daily candle period and latter 2 are of hourly candle period, have been added to define the conditions for the execution of the trade. To look at the price volatility, we are also taking this cluster of 4 candles of the hourly candle period, and also last hourly candle is being considered. These calculations were done to define the certain values which we are going to use as the conditions. First value is having the 5 pips as its calculated output value, and this variable has 20 as its defined value. And to pinpoint the exact entry point, these 10-second blocks are going to be used. In the last session, these calculations were carried out while defining the entry conditions for the execution of the buy trade. Now, in today's setup, we will be defining the logical requirement for the execution of the sell trade. So this buy side was completed. We have to make the sell side symmetrical. That means we are going to need 7 if blocks, and we also have to carry out certain calculations to define the conditions. For that, we are going to need 3 calculation expression block, as this calculation output will be common, but we will have to invert these 3 calculations and carry out anew. So for that, I will add 3 calculation expression blocks and 7 if blocks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. After this will come the trade command block. Okay, now let us head to the JForex platform, where I will explain to you the logic behind the execution of the trade. We want the sell trade to be executed when we have this HA close value lower than the HA open value, and not only that, we want the difference between the HA close value and the HA open value to be on the rise. So for the current candle, whatever is the difference between the HA open and the HA close should be greater than the last daily candle period's difference of HA open and HA close. So that condition is paramount, and only if this condition is getting fulfilled, we will be looking to initiate the trade. And if the daily conditions are in place, we look to initiate the trade whenever we have the crossover in the hourly candle period. And here by crossover, I mean in the last hour, the HA close value should have dropped below the HA open value. So something like this formation should be there. We will need HA close value to be less than HA open. In the penultimate candle, in the prior candle, the value should have been inverse. The HA close value need to have been greater than the HA open value, and only in the last hour the price is dropping. Also, we have to make sure that there is enough of momentum. So for that, we need the HA close value to be lower than the HA open value by at least more than 5 pips, and the difference between the high and the low for last 4 hours should be greater than 20 pips. So those are the requirements from the price action data. Now we head to the Visual JForex board. First thing we will need to do is define the difference for the HA open and HA close for the current daily candle and the last daily candle. So here we are going to use the values h open 11 and h close 11. We need the h close 11 to be less than h open 11, so we are going to deduct the h close 11 from h open 11. It is going to be a1 minus a2 h open 11 minus h close 11. Okay, so this is going to be sell side in Ashi difference, and in the last daily candle output, the Heikin Ashi lines difference will need to be less than the current candle's difference. So again we have to calculate the last candle difference also. The same thing we will have to do. We will have to deduct the HA close 15 from HA open 15. So this is going to be A1 minus A2 okay. We have defined the variables to compare the values. Now we need the last hourly candle closing value to be less than its opening value by more than 5 pips. So we have to consider the difference between the closing and opening of candle 20. Candle 20 is the last hourly candle. Candle 20 open minus candle 20 close, same thing, A1 minus A2 okay. So these three output values have been defined. Now I will join it to the multiple action block, and let us start defining the conditions for the execution of the sell trade. So we need the crossover in place last hourly candle Heikin Ashi output values needs to be in line with our requirements. Its HA close should be lower than the HA open, so we need to make sure that HA close 16 is less than HA open 16. First input less than second input. And in the penultimate hour, the condition should have been different. In the penultimate hour, we will need HA close value to have been greater. So again here we need first input greater than second input. After that we compare the calculations which we carried out. Candle 11 is the current, so we need this output value SHAD to be greater than LSHA. First input greater than second input. And looking at the price action data, we will need the last hour's candle close to be less than its opening price by more than 5 pips. So the difference needs to be greater than 5 pips. 5 pips we have already defined. MHL, I guess, SHL, let us check. Yes, it has the value of 5. So MHL is the appropriate variable. SHCD will need to be greater than MHL. So here it is going to be first input greater than second input. And also we need the last 4 hours high and low difference to be greater than 20 pips. So FCD will need to be greater than DHL. Okay. So with this, we have defined these 5 conditions. Now all we need to execute the trade is to define the exact entry point, and that is going to be last hourly candle close value. Whenever the price will start to drop below the last hourly candle close, we will look to initiate the sell trade. So we have to take candle 20 candle close, as the common input, and compare it to the closing values of candle 26 and candle 27. Candle 26 should have closed lower, whereas candle 27's closing value will need to be greater than the candle 20 candle close. So here FCD greater than DHL. The last 4 hours high low difference greater than the 20 pips. Candle 26 should have closed lower, so first input less than second input, whereas candle 27 should have closed higher. So we add now the trade command block. Market open at market, with the last condition being first input greater than second input. Let me now join this block before we define the input parameters. Okay, so it has been joined to multiple action. And then we have to define the input parameters for this trade command block. There is going to be a sale order. Default instrument remains as it is. Trade amount is going to be changed to 0.1 million. It should be dependent on the account equity. You should keep it in relation to account equity. Slippage, I think 2 pips is good enough. And stop loss take profit combination, we are going to work with the risk reward ratio of 1:2. So the stop loss is going to be between 15 pips and take profit 30 pips. So with this, our setup is complete. And as you can observe, it is symmetric. Same number of blocks have been used to define the sell side as the case was for the buy side. And I hope you have been able to understand the logical as well as the execution part of this algorithm involving the Heikin Ashi lines. I would suggest that you write out on your own, you build the algorithm and test it on the historical data to see whether it is profitable or not. And only after testing we will come to know of its efficacy and whether it is good enough or not. So that's it from my side for today's session. For further coverage of the market developments, you can indeed check out the Dukascopy Analytics page. We are also available on the Facebook. You can join our page there. For starting to trade, you can utilize the JForex platform services. Thank you all for joining in. Have a fabulous time ahead. See you next time. Till then, goodbye.